Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Alex. How you doing? You all right?
All good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for agreeing to do this. By the way,
Thanks for having me.
you're welcome. So, for those of you who are listening, welcome to Everyday People. My name is Sadiq Bello, and this is basically Breakfast with Sadiq Bello, where I interview many guests that I just want to hear their story, what they're about, what they do, how they got into what they get into, and see where the conversation takes us. And so, this, of course, is Alex, who, to my knowledge, is a DJ, and I'll find out more about her during the podcast. But it's a DJ that I saw playing one of her shows on Voices Radio, actually, funny enough. And we sort of got along while I was producing it, and I just saw her bubbly vibe, and I thought that it would be great to have her on the show for this conversation. So I'll let Alex introduce herself in case there's anything that I've missed out. Alex, do you want to say hello to the crowd?
Yes, of course. Hi everyone. I'm Alex. My original full name is Alexandra, but most of my friends call me Alex. I am a DJ by night and finance girl, city girl by day. So trying to balance out both sides of the coin. So the work and the play. I'm originally from Romania and I've lived in London for 10 years now. So I moved here back in 2013, did my studies and decided to hang around.
Nice. Okay. Wow, that's a great introduction. I couldn't have asked for a better one. Okay. So, I mean, the first thing that I want to get into is most probably actually your life in Romania, if you wouldn't mind. So you said you came here in 2013, which was 10 years ago. And did you come here alone? Did you come with family? How did you sort of decide, okay, cool, I'm going to come to London or be in London?
I always wanted to study abroad. So when I was in high school, I was already prepping for doing university abroad, just to have the opportunity to get a better education and go to a good university. I looked at a couple of different options. So I was also looking at potentially Vienna or Berlin or Frankfurt, because I do speak a bit of German as well.
Right.
But when I first came to London, it just kind of clicked with me immediately. So I really loved the vibe of the place. I just applied to university in London. Moved here, I didn't know anyone when I first came. I was all by myself, and made friends through uni, then work, and now radio. So it's been quite the adventure.
That's mad. Do you know what? That's really brave. So I always say this when I think about people that move from one country to another, because I feel like a lot of people say I want to do it and I want to travel the world and I want to go here and this and da. But no one ever talks about how difficult it actually could be or is to start off with. So when you first came to London, right, before you actually decided to move, I guess you'd already been here before deciding to go to uni here. And what's it called? Something in your system obviously strongly felt like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I asked that question because I'm one of those people who's always like, oh, one day I'm going to quit my life and move to Japan or move to Korea. And I never do it, right? I've been saying this for the longest time. I'm in my 30s now. I've been saying this since I was 15. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do it. And I'll never do it. So I'm like, when you did it at first, is there what was that journey? Not that the whole journey, but I imagine it's pretty difficult or pretty lonely at first on some level because you're in a different country. Did you speak any English at all? I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yes, my English was pretty good. Good enough to study in English. So yeah.
Okay.
I think it's quite interesting because and I don't know, I guess a lot of people don't really know this about me, but I am deep down a bit of a romantic.
Okay.
And when I was a teenager, I used to really like indie rock music, and I loved a lot of UK bands. So I was a big
Yeah.
fan of Arctic Monkeys and
Oh,
the
me too. Sick.
Wombats,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
you know, like the good days of indie rock in the early I don't know, late 2000s, early 2010s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I felt there were also like some movies going around at that time. There was like there was like the Angus
Like
and
Notebook
Perfect
or something.
Snogging or something like
Yeah,
that. Like there are these kind of movies about like UK teenagers, and
yeah,
you know, when I first came to London, that was kind of my image that I had of the UK.
yeah.
This place where there's going to be you know, a lot of like cool music and gigs, and you know, people who like you know, dress in a fun
That's
way,
cool and have
and yeah,
fun
cute
and yeah.
boys and
I
and
see.
all of that.
I,
So
I feel like yeah,
yeah, and it's so different because I feel like I traveled quite a lot of, you know, continental Europe with my
yeah,
parents. We used to do a lot of road trips when I was a kid, so I'd seen most of, you know, Germany, Austria,
yeah,
France, Netherlands. And I will say, I feel like obviously each one of them has their own quirks and their own cultural identity, but I do
yeah.
feel like they all kind of have a similar vibe, whereas the UK was just completely different from like anything that I'd known, you know,
Right.
from having the traffic on the wrong side, and
Yeah.
you know, the English breakfast, and like the Queen and the
That's
corgis, and
so
like all the little quirks. And I was like,
yeah,
wow, like that's so different. And you know, I definitely
yeah.
wanted to try something new. And yeah, that's why I think the UK stood out to me.
Of course,
Um,
that's almost so I mean for me anyway, even though like so I was born in Nigeria and I only came here when I was 8 years old. But that's flattering for me to hear because I feel like especially here we're always like in the UK or in London, we're always very much like, oh yeah, look, we want to go to Greece or we want to go to France or we want to go to Germany, we want to do this and blah 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 blah. But there were actually a lot of people that I've heard this from around Europe who also say that same thing, like the UK, and not particularly not that the UK in general, actually London specifically has like its own culture that is unlike anywhere else, and I've heard that from you know, many people and so forth. So was it a case of like not only did you want to come anyway, but it was like you came, discovered the culture, and then that kept you here because of things like, you know, the Arctic Monkeys and like these other bands and these other movies? Because I'm the same. I'm a very huge fan of things like I wouldn't say necessarily indie rock, but I romanticize everything, I really do. I'm very much like, oh yeah, this is going to be amazing and this is going to be great, and I'm going to like meet these people and eat this food and go here and so forth. Like that's in my mind. The way that you're describing what London was like to you when you first came, that's how I've convinced myself that my life in Korea or Japan one day will be. I'm like, I'm gonna go and everything is just gonna work out. Like, you know what I mean? Everything will just be fantastic. And so yeah, so okay, so you came here, moved over to London, you were studying, and then you mentioned that you got into finance, or like your second part of your life is finance on some level, right?
Yeah, so that was a bit unexpected for me because you know, back in Romania the financial sector isn't really well developed at all. Like when I moved here, I had no idea what an investment bank was, or what a Goldman Sachs and who Morgan Stanley
Yeah.
was, or you know, were kind of big companies that I'd never heard about. I didn't know how stocks or bonds worked.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking of initially of doing some sort of management degree, you know, kind of general business degree, and just kind of see where it goes. Just because it has quite like a broad application, I guess, and you know, consulting was also something that I was looking at. But it was just something quite unexpected, and you know, I just took these kind of intro classes at uni, and I guess it was also maybe a bit of an ambition thing because I felt like all the smartest kids in my uni decided to go for the finance classes, because we had a system where, you know, it was more of an American system where you took an intro class in each kind of major, and then you decide which one you wanted to specialize in. And so I had the same classmates, you know, throughout those intro classes, and then I felt like, the people who really wanted to challenge themselves went for finance. And I always went for like the most difficult, the most niche topics and the most niche
Yeah.
classes. Just because I really like to challenge myself. But I will say, in terms of my career, I didn't
Yeah.
really have a set plan, and it's been very interesting to see how just winging it and like going with the flow got me
Yeah.
to a point where I'm quite happy with my career, even though I didn't have a set plan of like, oh, I'm gonna go to school for this and then apply
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
internship and then do that. I just kind of was like, okay, what's the best option that's available to me at this time? And
Yeah.
everything else just kind of sorted itself out, and I'm very lucky that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, like most of the time I find like, so with so I always, like, I'm a massive fan of kismet, and I think that things always work out the way that they're supposed to, even whether you plan them or not. Like, people always say, like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, because realistically, like, you think that you are in control, or like, of whatever's going on, but it's already pre-written in the stars and the destiny somewhere, right? So it's like, naturally you kind of always end up where you're supposed to be, and it all works out. And so that's probably why, even though you may not have necessarily planned to be, like, in finance or be in this career or so forth, you were somehow here and you're enjoying it, and you're sort of like, being like a rock and roll, like you're rock and rolling it, if anything. And so I'm pretty sure there were many people who are in Romania, like from probably the same place that you come from. Like, I don't know whether it's like a town, city, village side or whatever, but they're probably looking at your life and thinking, I wish I was, or I love what Alex is doing, and I wish I was doing what she was doing too, if that makes sense. But you didn't even necessarily plan to be where you are, if that if that makes sense. So that's always great. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna play a bit of music, and then we'll be back, and I'll ask you a couple of questions regarding how you got into DJing. So how you went from, like, finance and so forth, and then radio. That's a mad transition. So we'll talk about that shortly. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys. We'll be back in a second. Just gonna play some music, and then I will come back. This is Everyday People with Alex. Okay, so I'm back. So hi guys, this is Everyday People. As usual, my name is Sadiq Bello, and if you hadn't listened to the first 15 or so minutes, I'm over here talking to Alex, who is from Romania and came over to London to study, and jumped into finance. And from what it sounds like, is very happy in the career that she is that she's in. And we're also now going to talk about her being on radio, which is where I met her. Alex, are you there? Do you want to say hi to the people again?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I also would like to note that my DJ name is myriad, if anyone would like to check out my stuff. A bit of a shameless plug here. Never a missed opportunity for that.
That's sick. All right, cool. So you heard it here first. It's myriad. It's a DJ name. So, like, search that up on the Instagram. I'm assuming SoundCloud, Mixcloud, everything, everywhere.
All the socials.
All the socials, myriad. All right. So speaking of myriad, that's who we're going to talk about now, because that's the person that actually led us to this conversation that I bumped into, and I was like, oh, this person's quite bubbly and has a great sense of humor, and I would love her to be on Everyday People, because I think she has interesting things to talk about. So, DJing. Now, I know how I started DJing, but I want to hear how you got into it. Like, at what point in your life, whether it was here or it was in Romania, or I don't know, maybe you're punching in some numbers at work, something in your brain said, oh my God, I need to play music and I'm going to be on radio. When did that happen for you? Are you able to describe that moment for me?
So I've always been really big into music, ever since I was a preteen, I think around 11, 12. My parents got me my first iPod, and I was very excited to have that as a gift. And obviously Romania back in the day, we were just illegally downloading songs from LimeWire, and they were just random albums and like poor quality rips, and
oh my god, I forgot about LimeWire. And like Kazaa. Remember Kazaa?
Or it was or Napster. It's just I was like, we're showing our age a little bit here.
I know, we really are. Like, these lot don't know. This generation has no idea.
Hey, those were the golden days, man. When you had to like find the right torrents and make sure that it wasn't some random stuff that some random person just singing the song that you want to hear.
Or you get like some random song that was like 10 seconds long, and it was like just like a loop of someone plugging in some next stuff, and I'm like, what? This is not Missy Elliott or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Romanians, we kind of took pirating and torrenting to a bit of an art. Like even my parents know how to do that, and it shows you how they're not even that incredibly tech savvy, but they do.
But they know how to do it.
So respect.
So sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I've just remembered something when you just said that. So previously, right, a couple of years ago, I was an Uber driver. This is like 5-6 years ago, which like not a lot of people know, but here we go. So before I was like I've always sort of been a DJ, but I was an Uber driver. And when I was an Uber driver, I met a guy who was from Romania, and he explained to me that for a moment in Romania, it was sort of like a really cool thing to sort of own a pirate radio station. And is that still like a thing?
I'm not entirely sure, although I didn't partake in the kind of Winamp craze back in the day. I did that we had our own kind of Romanian pirate website for high definition movies and TV shows and stuff, and definitely for music as well. So I do believe that could be very much the case.
Okay. Fair. Sorry, I just wanted to interject to that because I just randomly remembered it and I never thought about it like previously. But yeah, so going back to the topic, to the question. So how you got into music? So you said you had
I had my
Napster on LimeWire. Yeah, carry on.
I had my songs from LimeWire. I was kind of taking my little iPod to school, and with my classmates kind of taking turns listening to songs in breaks and stuff. That kind of snowballed into a really big passion for music. I was mentioning before with my move to London that music was maybe quite a big part of it. I actually did I very seriously considered doing a music production degree before going into finance. So I was like, okay, do I follow my passion, or do I take,
or do you go into finance?
I was like, oh, fine. But definitely part of London's appeal for me was also the incredible music scene, and I feel like there's no other city in the world that has the diversity of genres and the opportunities that the city has, just in terms of music and art. So I really love that.
Like a mountain pot.
So I started going to lots of gigs once I moved here. It started with kind of rock bands, but then some of my uni mates drew me into more of the electronic music side of things. Funnily enough, I was really into drum and bass back in the day. Drum and bass continues to be very popular in Eastern Europe, especially in Romania and Hungary. We listen to a lot of drum and bass, and we like it. In fact, one of my childhood friends from Romania is now a drum and bass
drum and bass,
quite successful. So and obviously coming here was the home of drum and bass and jungle, and those were the kind of first more electronic music raves that
you kind of went into. I would have never thought there'd be a massive drum and bass sort of culture or such in Romania. I don't know why. I imagined it would be like tech or like acid house or something. But in terms of like drum and bass or like jungle, I always felt like that was more of like a British thing. Like we're like, this is our music, kind of like old school garage. I always think it's very much London based than, you know, even like the rest of the UK or so. So that's interesting to hear. You have Romania is quite big into drum and bass, or like at least it has a drum and bass scene of some level.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So we have a festival that's called Electric Castle. Shout out Electric Castle. It's probably the one of the best festivals that I've ever been to, no joke. And
wow.
That's not just because I'm from there, but it's actually
yeah, I was gonna say
really
that's some serious words, you know.
Lots of fun. You know, if anyone wants a relatively cheaper camping festival, come to Romania, come to Electric Castle. And yeah, they have a pretty big lineup of drum and bass artists every year. So there's one stage where there's always going to be drum and bass music, and they had UK artists play. It's just that people really into it, and you know, they do the whole like the dance, the X step or whatever it's called, and they really go for it. And even last year when I went, there was a lot of excitement at the drum and bass stage.
Oh, sick. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look that up after I'll look it up after the show to be honest, to see
check it out,
what's going on. Because Romania's always been in the back of my mind as well, one of those places that I find that, because every time, I mean, I've said this to you before, but every single person, and even like specifically women, I don't know if it's like a gender thing, I swear down, but specifically women that I've met from Romania, and even women that I may have met in like Lithuania, Poland, but specifically Romania, there's like, you have a character around you, like you're very charismatic, but it's like you're not necessarily trying to be charismatic, and you're not trying to be
you're trying to get on my good side now.
No, I swear down, it's like you don't try to be cool, you just naturally are. And I swear to you, I've met that with every single Romanian woman I've ever come across in my life. I'm like, what is it that, even with you, this is what made me actually really think about having you, or wanting to have you on this podcast, because the way that the conversation flows, like, I don't think you're necessarily trying to tell me interesting stuff, but everything that you are saying is interesting to me. Like, does that make sense on some level?
I'm glad you find it interesting. Hopefully our listeners will find it interesting as well.
Yeah, you know, like, it's mad. But yeah, sorry. So got into music, went into electronic raves. Electronic raves became electronic culture, for instance, drum and bass. But somewhere along that, you still then decided, like, yo, like, I'm gonna DJ. Like, when did that transition into, boom, you know what, I'm going to press play on some turntables and actually play music?
Yeah, so it's actually quite funny. So I'd got to the stage now where I was the kind of default person to play music at house parties, where most of my friends had caught on that, you know, because I was always you know, kind of crate digging, let's say, like virtual crate digging. So I was always like following new DJs, following labels, you know, looking at new stuff that came out. And, you know, I would always like send songs to people, be like, oh my God, like, listen to this, listen to that. So, you know, most of my friends were quite comfortable with my music taste, and I was in charge to play the music at house parties.
Yeah.
And what happened was I got really annoyed because people just, when they get drunk, they don't respect the cue. So I had the perfect, you know, like progressive techno playlist prepared, and then someone just comes in halfway and like plays Beyonce and just kills the whole queue.
Oh, yeah.
And that used to drive me absolutely mad. Like, okay, if you have, and then I went to a party where they had an actual DJ. So my friend's flatmate was a DJ, and they had decks at this massive house party that they did. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the secret. So that's how, if you have decks, no one knows how to use them. So no one can skip your song or put their own stuff on.
Right. Okay.
And, I was just at this house party, and the guy that was DJing, like his stuff sounded pretty good, and I just literally walked up to him and I was like, hey dude, like, can you teach me how to do this? He looked a bit weird, being like, yeah, sure, like, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
And then I started playing with him. His name's Andreas.
Yeah.
very, very talented musician. So we started playing at first just kind of at his place, just like rehearsing and stuff, and then played a bit as a B2B.
Yeah.
And then I kind of branched off, bought my own decks, and branched off into
Then became
myriad.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I mean, do you know what? That's very cool, because even for me, to be honest, and I think every DJ that I've ever come across, it's very rare. I meet more DJs who accidentally got into it as opposed to DJs who actually sort of woke up and sat down and said, I want to be a DJ, or I want to be this. Like, even for me, I always tell people, I actually, like, my friend bought some turntables, long story short. He didn't want it, sold it to me. I took it to uni at first as a thing like, oh, I'll just have this because I thought I was going to like impress girls or impress people or whatever. Friend of mine had a party. Her DJ broke his hand. She invited me, bought the decks, did a good party. People loved what I was playing. And then from then on, it was like, okay, I guess I'm a DJ now. And then that's literally my story. And I find that most of the people who DJ now, that I like, or are generally, in my opinion anyway, good DJs. Like, even for yourself, what you're saying to me, it was almost a given. Like, it naturally just sort of came to you. You didn't really have to sort of fight or like work hard to try and figure out whether you wanted to be a DJ or not. You already had like the music sort of inside you, and it was just a case of channeling it, I guess, into something else. And so I mean, I say that to say thank you for being Marie X, and or like, you know, on behalf of the world, and not just staying as Alex, because I'm sure there is many exciting things to come from you as of yet that we haven't witnessed yet, you know.
I hope so too. I've got a few things planned. Let's see how it turns out, but I'm excited to see as well where my DJ journey takes me.
Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna take another break. We're gonna play a little bit of music, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the things that you may where you see yourself in the future, or if there's any exciting projects that you have coming out, that you're working on, or anything that you want to promote or push people to, and we could get to know like I feel like I've known the personal side of you, and now I want to know like the more professional side. And so we'll play some music and we'll come back shortly. Yep. Cool. Excellent. Okay, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Played some songs there. It's my what's it called? If you are just locking in, we're sort of almost halfway through, talking to Alex, aka Marie X, who we have now figured out is not only from Romania and is sort of I was going to say, is it like, what's the word? Is it like a financer, or is it like a finance advisor? Like, I don't know what I would say. Like a finance person of some sort.
I guess.
What would you say? Yeah.
There's a variety of different roles within the financial sector. So like, without boring people too much, I guess there's like trader, there's analyst, there's, I think, kind of, those are like the let's say the
words
between roles. I don't work specifically with financial data and investments, but I look more on the sustainability side. So I'm what they call a ESG analyst. So that's social and governance. Yeah.
That sounds very like official. So ESG finalist. ESG finalist, is that what you said?
ESG analyst.
ESG analyst. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's sick. All right, cool. So we figured out that Alex is an ESG analyst, but she's also a DJ called Marie X, who you can find on all socials. And that's on SoundCloud, Instagram, Mixcloud. Are you on Facebook as well, by the way?
I'm on Facebook, but not as Mary X. Just
like that. Okay, cool.
That's my Facebook is private, so
okay, cool.
Don't go look at my embarrassing pictures.
Don't go and look at the embarrassing photo. Yeah, do you know what? I came off on Facebook ages ago, right? And it really shows. Like, I find that now people on Facebook, it sort of shows what generation you're from, because right, with I don't know if I'd still call them Gen Z, or if they're like whatever comes after Gen Z. I don't know what you call them, but it's like to them.
Alpha? I think it's
What do we call them?
Gen Alpha?
Yeah, Alpha. Okay, that's mad. Okay, so Gen Alpha, right? To them, Facebook is like what I think is like old people stuff, right? They think of Facebook like how I would think of like the supper club that my parents went to, or something like that. Like, do you know what I mean? So, I came off Facebook, and everything that I do now is either on Instagram, which is basically Facebook's child, because Facebook bought Instagram ages ago. But everything I do is either on Instagram, SoundCloud, or Mixcloud, and Twitter. What's it called? I'm currently thinking of whether or not I need a LinkedIn. And I know it sounds crazy, but the reason why I'm thinking about this is because on a LinkedIn, so everyone who uses LinkedIn is like professional. LinkedIn is like, oh yeah, this is what I do in my day's job, and they got a suit and tie, and the CEO this and da da da. But I'm starting to wonder, why does no one use, or I haven't come across it anyway, but why does no one use LinkedIn like the same way they use their, Instagram or Facebook or whatnot? Like, who created these like boundaries to say this is for this and this is for that and so forth? Isn't it all just social media? Like, does that make sense?
I think they had to stand out in some way to get people on the platform, because if you have a million different apps that all kind of do the same,
they all do the same thing. Yeah,
it fragments people between all of them, and no one can get kind of critical mass, right? I feel like each of these social networks needs to have their own kind of unique proposition to get people hooked and get them to use. I think LinkedIn were the kind of first people to break into the professional social
corporate market,
space. But I mean, I don't know, there are people who post on LinkedIn, but it's mostly to post about career updates or professional
it wouldn't be like, oh my god, I went out last night, I got so hammered. It would be
I don't know, some people post some weird stuff. Like there's a lot of humble brags on LinkedIn for sure. Some not so humble brags too.
Do you know what? That's the reason why, right? That's the thing that's always stopped me from making a LinkedIn, because it really is like a humble brag. Like, can you imagine making a profile? Like, so when I think of like some of the most powerful people on the planet probably don't have a LinkedIn, or don't even have their picture on a LinkedIn, right? Whereas I find everybody else who wants to be noticed by the powerful people on the planet has a LinkedIn, and it's always like, oh yeah, so like, I did this and I did that, and I discovered a Fortune 500 company, da, 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 da. Whereas I find the people who actually discovered Fortune 500 companies probably aren't on LinkedIn. They're probably like, they're just chilling because they have, I don't know, some like personal assistant or executive assistant do with all of that for them, while they're just like I saw an interview where Jeff Bezos was saying he makes like 3 good decisions every day, and then he takes the rest of the day off. You know what I mean? Whereas we've sort of convinced ourselves that, in order to make it, you got to work really hard and like, basically like drown yourself. And I'm starting to realize as I get older, I'm like, yo, wait, I should really come off this wheel. I'm like a hamster, and everyone else is in this rat race, but I'm like, what are we actually doing? Like, what are we doing? This is what I've been sitting down and thinking about over the past few like months, probably since I met you, actually. So from round about September, I've sort of been in this quote unquote rut where I've been like, what is it that we're actually doing, and why are we doing it? Like, why am I, if I say, I want this house, or I want this money, or I want this, it's like, okay, what do I want the money for? And if I do know what I want the money for, is there not a way that I can get that thing without necessarily getting the money? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I say all of this to segue, of course, into the conversation of what I'm about to ask you is, where, if someone said to you, where are you headed? What would your answer be? Like, why do you do all the things that you do in regards to the finance, the ESG analyst work that you do, or even being a DJ and the music that you play? Like, why are you, who really is Alex, and is Marie X an escape or something that she wants to get into? And if it is, where is it taking you? How would you answer
that? Big question there. Big question.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, it's quite interesting how it's transformed for me as well, because obviously, going to uni and going to business school and being surrounded by all these really smart, really ambitious people, I kind of got caught up in the rat race as well, where I was like, oh, like, I want to get a great job at this like big corporation, and then like climb my way up the ladder and get to the point where I have lots of money and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's like also for me, the older I get, and having had a couple of instances of work related burnout, and I have the tendency, like, I want to do everything. Like, I'm the type of person who I'm just really curious about stuff. I want to learn new things. I want to try new things, in all aspects of my life.
Yeah.
And that sometimes like causes me to bite off a bit more than I can chew, and kind of take on too many things, too many projects, and then I kind of drive myself to burnout. So but after having had quite a bad burnout experience about 2 years ago, it did put things into perspective for me, and I was like, why am I giving away my health to this company, and my physical health, my mental health? It's like it's not worth it, right? Like no job in the world is worth your health.
It's worth that, and it's like time. Like, so see, the thing that's very important for me as I've gotten older is time. I sit there and I think, like, look, I'm giving my time, like, what could I do with my time? And I find that when I was asking myself, what am I doing, where am I going, how am I going there, I always used to be like, oh well, I want to, like, typically what you hear from a lot of people is, I want to be financially free, or I want to be free to do what I want, when I want, how I want. But my theory is a lot of people don't actually know what they want, and that's why they end up using their time sort of filling up those gaps with work. And so now I'm asking myself, well, what do I want, and can I actually do it while I am working this rat race? So for people who are working 5 days a week, maybe in the 2 days that you're off, I might, instead of saying, oh, I just want to be free to do something, I might say, yo, I want to learn, I don't know if Romanian is a language, but is that language, or is there like...
It is, yeah.
Okay, so I might say, oh, I want to learn Romanian, and see, now I can spend my Saturdays learning Romanian instead of just saying I want to do anything. And then once I've learned Romanian, I might say, okay, well, now I want to spend my Sundays, like, I don't know, learning how to sumo wrestle or whatever. And I find that if you do that over the course of like months or days or weeks or years, eventually you get to the point where you have to live a fulfilled life, because you have done all of these things in your spare time. And so when you got into 2 years ago, when you experienced this burnout, and you were like, okay, why am I doing this? Like, why am I giving my time and my health and so forth? Was that, like, how does that transform you? Do you feel like you do things now with more of a purpose than you did before experiencing that burnout?
I think the main thing that it taught me is the importance of self-care, and I definitely don't do that enough even today, and I should be doing more of it. But it's just so important to like take that time to look after yourself, and not always be on and not always push yourself. And I used to be the type of person who I was a perfectionist. I was really hard on myself. I was always kind of striving to be at the top, and to some extent I still am like that, but it doesn't serve me very well. Sometimes you need to accept when something is good enough, and it's not perfect, but it's good enough. I'm happy with it. Let's
just keep moving
work on it, and rather than spending another X hours on perfecting it, because taking time to kind of spend good quality time with friends and family, very important. And not just texting them, not just going back and forth on social media, but actually making time to see them in person. You know,
and taking time to smell the roses while you do it.
yeah, exactly. But that's really important, right? Like getting out in nature. I feel like living in London is definitely something that we don't do enough.
Yeah.
Or really kind of going out and enjoying some time in nature. And you know, the UK has a lot of beautiful places where you can do that, but it's very, very easy to get caught up in the rat race, and you know, suddenly it's been like 3 months and you know, you haven't had a holiday and you're just always on.
All you see is concrete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
You're sleeping like 5 hours a night and just you know, wondering why you're tired. Well, it's like, well, I've got an answer for you, my friend. Yeah, so definitely self-care is super important.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, that's an important lesson to sort of for anyone to sort of live by, I guess, self-care, because all the things that you are doing, all the things that you want to do, no matter how hard you're working, if your health is not being taken care of, then you won't have the time to do the things that you want to anyway. Like, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're not healthy, then you're not going to be able to go skydiving or whatever it is that you want to do. Like, do you know what I mean? Because you know, you haven't taken care of your well-being or so forth. But then that also leads me to after you've had this burnout, and you're still here, you spend your time with your friends and you do what you think, and you know, hopefully, like, you go out or you're at work or you sleep, whether you're sleeping 5 hours a night, 8 hours a night, whatever it might be, there must be some sort of so do you feel like, as a perfectionist or as a previous perfectionist, I'm not sure, is there like an end goal that you're sort of heading towards, or do you find that you spend more time now just sort of enjoying the journey, as cheesy as it sounds, but enjoying the journey a lot more than the destination per se?
I think it's important to have both. I think it's not good to live a life where you don't have any sort of goals. It doesn't have to be, you know, any kind of big career goals, but just something that you're working on improving on yourself. I don't know, learning a new language, getting better at a certain hobby, you know, taking care of your plants and growing a really nice garden or whatever it might be, right? But I think it's always good to be striving towards something, and, you know, having that purpose that, like, you know, helps you to get up in the morning and, you know, put the work in. Also, it's important to enjoy the journey, so that, you know, you're not just kind of slaving away and waiting for that certain goal to be happy, because, you know, a lot of people do this. It's like, oh, when I'm gonna achieve this, I'm gonna be happy. It's like, whoa, when I'm gonna have this job, when I'm gonna have this amount of money, when I'm gonna buy this car, whatever, that's when I'm gonna be happy. But you can't wait for those things to happen, so you have to find ways to find your happiness,
find the joy.
Well, so I think for me, I guess, you know, the ultimate goal is to, you know, be happy and you know, find that in any way that I can. I want to be a good support for my friends, a good support for my family, but also I want to feel like I'm contributing towards something that is bigger than myself. I think the reason why I'm really passionate about my job is because you know, I work with a lot of stuff to do with climate change and the climate transition, and it makes me feel like I'm contributing to something that is impactful, and it's greater than just me. And that's always going to motivate me, you know, either doing something for the planet or, you know, doing something for other people. I'm really passionate about teaching as well, you know, so I want to use my skills to make a difference in some way to people's lives. And I think that's kind of, I would say, probably my main goal kind of in general.
I think that's a very beautiful goal, right? And I'm not saying it just because you've just said that, but I was actually listening to what you were saying while you were saying it. And I feel like, so I've always told people that I think there were two types of people in the world in a nutshell, right? I don't think they're like, we break it down into all of these little barriers and all of these different races and religions and prejudice, and it's like not diminish anyone, anyone's beliefs or anyone's like character or whatever. But I think there were literally two types of people in the world, and there were either those who were in service of themselves and those who were in service of others. I think that's all that exists. I think every single thing that everybody does, you're either doing it for yourself or you're doing it in others. And as you go through life, it's like you will be challenged and you will be tested, because sometimes you will be doing something that you think like you can very be easily persuaded to start doing things for yourself, or you might start doing things for other people and your ego would take over and be all like, oh no, but I want to be the person that does this. And then there were other people who are on some level in service to themselves only because they want to be able to reach a powerful position enough where they can help other people. So what I mean by that, if I gave an example, is if we talk about someone like I don't know, Kanye West, right, will talk about, oh, I need money, and oh, everyone needs to know I'm a genius, and oh, everyone this, da 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 da. And in his mind, he's thinking, well, I'm doing all of this so that I can like build a town for, I don't know, a shelter for people who want to make music or whatever it's called. But it's very easy to get into to sort of get caught up in making it about yourself instead of actually helping other people. And so when you say the goal that you now have is less about buying that car or getting that job or doing that there, but it's more to do with helping other people, I think that's actually the best way that you can possibly spend your life doing. And I like the fact that it's not the way that you sort of explained it. I don't think you would have told me that if I hadn't asked about it, which tells me anyway on some level that it's a genuine concern that you have, and it's a genuine thing that you're trying to achieve. Because you also meet people who they almost can't wait to tell you, like, oh yeah, I did this great thing for like I don't know, some people in some like church or some mosque somewhere, and I'm like, okay, but are you telling me that because you want me to think of you as a good person, or are you actually a good person? Because I'm like, if you're a good person, you shouldn't need to prove it, right? So I'm always wary of people who sort of come across and want me to think of them as like, oh, you are my savior. I'm like, well, no, why are you telling me that I'm your savior? Like, do you know what I mean? And so yeah, I feel like for you explaining that the way that you explained it, you are evidently a selfless person, or you come across as a selfless person. I mean, I don't know, you might have like crazy thoughts inside your head. I have no idea, right? But that leads me to ask you, what's your star sign, by the way?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, okay. I normally have like funny interactions with Virgos, and I mean that in the sense that like sometimes I either really get on with them, or we're just not like compatible, in a sense that, not that we hate each other or anything, but I'm just like, oh, I don't understand your lifestyle, like I don't get why you would do that, or so forth. So yeah, I don't know if that means anything. I'm also one of those people who thinks you have to believe in a little bit of everything for life to be magical. Because some people will be like, oh yeah, well, I'm a Virgo, so this and that. And I'm like, if someone is nice, they're nice. And if you're an arsehole, then you're an arsehole. Don't blame it on your star sign. You just you just are. Yeah.
I tend to stay away from things that put people in boxes.
Yeah.
I think everyone's just unique and everyone's nuanced, and there's always gonna be gray areas. I think like the zodiac and like personality test and things like that are just maybe tools that help us understand ourselves better, or understand how we interact with other people better.
Yeah.
But I always try to kind of stay away from giving labels or categorizing people based on things like that, just because I like to live in the gray areas. I like see and enjoy the diversity of life in any shape or form, just because I get bored very easily, and try to kind of see the uniqueness in everything, in every situation, in every person.
That's nice. Yeah, I like to. Do you know what? I need to take a leaf out of your book, and be a bit more like that, because I try to be like that, and then sometimes I'll have like some wild thought where I'll be like, well, actually, we can't be all that different. But okay, so just to challenge what you said, not to necessarily say that nobody is different, or nobody is the same, or one is right or what is wrong. But you know what I always feel like? You see how, like, so I think of human beings like ants on a molehill, right? So if you look at ants on a molehill, or you have, like, let's say you had a mouse in your house, right? And you had loads of mice. All of those mice that are doing that thing in your house, those mice really feel as though like they are individually like doing things on like a small scale. You'd be like, okay, one mice likes to hang around the kitchen, one mice likes to hang around the bathroom, one mice has to do this. Cool, I get that. But then if you travel to Australia, or you travel to Mexico, and you go to another house and there's also mice there, those mice might be doing exactly the same thing that the mice in your kitchen are doing, but the mice in Mexico also think they are just as unique as the ones in your house. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. So when I think of human beings, I think that individually, no matter how unique we sort of feel that we may or may not be, I feel like there's only a level that we can reach based on the fact that we are still human beings, in the sense that, you know, whether I pick up a lion, like an ant. So that's why I said like an anthill. Like if there's an ant in your back garden right now, like all of those ants are going over to pick up the plants and get the plants and put it on their back and put it in the anthill, so that they can like feed the ant queen in their nest or whatever. And they really do believe they're living like a unique life. But if we go to another anthill that has never met each other before, somewhere in the Saharan desert, right, they're probably doing the same thing that those ants in your back garden are doing. And so that's why I think of human beings, like, no matter how different or unique all of our lives actually are, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, how different actually are we when we're all, you know, part of this like DNA or this fabric of life, or like living. Yeah, but that's just my thought pattern. I have no way of proving it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think what you said is just showing that we're all kind of going towards the same purpose. Like, I think obviously we all want to feel safe, we all want to feel accomplished, we all want to feel happy, we all want to feel accepted. So in that sense, like, we are all kind of moving in the same direction. Yeah, that's kind of what we're compelled to do, you know, based on our species or our genes or whatever, you know, reproduce, whatever, biology, etc. But obviously everyone has their own path and how they get there, and that's where that individual, you know, part matters. Is, you know, example with the mice, like they all want to try to get food, but one of them is looking for food under the fridge, and the other one's in the and, you know, one of them has you know, white spots and the other one has brown spots. So even though they're both trying to get food, they're kind of trying to do it in a different way, and I think that's kind of where it gets interesting, you know, to kind of see the similarities and the differences, I guess.
Yeah, that's true, and that's what moves life forward. That's amazing.
We got very, very philosophical there.
I know, it's mad. You know what? This always happens every show. I always start off like very fun and bubbly, and just talking about the people and how they are, and like the life and this and that, and then it always ends up philosophical, because that's what I like to find out about people. I think like it helps me understand them a little bit more, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is you know, well, in this case, this is Marie X. This is the true Marie X that you won't get on any other show, etc., and so forth. But yeah, there's only a few minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to play some music, just because I actually forgot for a second that was actually a breakfast show, and we were also supposed to play music because I got so caught up in the conversation, which I'm very much enjoying with you.
Well, get people an extra long music break then.
I'll give them an extra long music break, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap things up. Probably about any last requests or final thoughts that you want them to know about you. Yeah.
Great.
Excellent. All right, guys, we'll be back in a second. I'm going to play some music now, and yeah, I'll be back with Alex, aka myriad. Cool. Okay. All right. Wow, that was a long break. That was good. It's so nuts actually sitting there and being like, oh, that was a long break. And it's like, oh, like we know what's going on, but they don't. Like, do you understand what I mean? Like, I have to sit here and be like, oh, that was a long break. That's hilarious. That's what I love about this. Like, it will all be all, in posted and stuff, but that's cool. It's all right. Radio people know what we're laughing at, so it's all good. But yeah, okay. So we're here with the final segment. And I mean, what is there anything that you want to necessarily talk about? Because I feel like I've asked everything that I wanted to know. And I, by the way, all jokes aside, I really have actually enjoyed this, and I love that you actually gave me the chance to do this, because I'm very wary of the fact that you might be busy and you might be like running around like crazy and living life and stuff. So thank you for actually coming on Everyday People and doing this. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, and thanks for giving me the platform. I don't often get to talk about myself to this
to this level. Yeah.
And I've enjoyed your anecdotes as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so so are there any final thoughts, or is there anything that is on your mind that you want to share for our listeners, or anything you want to ask me, anything that you wanted to plug or push, any shows that you're doing, literally anything that's on your mind, anything you want to just let off?
Yeah, I mean, so at the moment, obviously work's been a bit crazy, so I have taken a bit of a step back from DJing, but I am planning a comeback. So definitely, I would like people to keep an eye out for any future myriad DJ sets, radio shows, etc. I've been in the background plotting and scheming, maybe trying to start tonight. So if you do see my name on any lineups, come through. It's gonna be fun. I'm thinking of doing something that is in line with my nerdy nature. So there will be maybe something kind of sci-fi inspired, space themed. I'm not entirely sure, but
okay.
I think that's what I've been thinking of doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no concrete plans yet, but definitely there's something in the works. So stay tuned for that. Any future shows on Voices Radio as well. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah. Okay, that's nice. No, that's. I was just thinking about that when you said the spacey thing, and I was gonna ask if you weren't. And sometimes this might be a difficult question, but it's like, so let's say you weren't working in finance, and let's say you weren't a DJ, and let's say you weren't on radio or that producing music. What do you think you would be doing? Like, what else would you want to do if money did not matter at all, or you hadn't set like goals or boundaries or leaps or anything like that? Like, what do you think you would be doing with your time? Like, would you be, I don't know, herding sheep, like I don't know,
knitting sweaters?
Yeah, like, what would you be doing with your time if money didn't matter?
I don't know. I think I would really like to have done something like investigative journalism or being a detective or something. I've always enjoyed kind of solving problems. Like being a journalist also involves kind of like traveling to places and kind of discovering the dirt on people and corporations, but you also need to be quite good with people and quite social. You need to speak to your sources and protect their identity and stuff like that. I think that could be really cool. Just kind of
walk around
doing some digging and solving problems and having some fun in the process as well.
Okay, so I mean, what you're really saying, what you say is that you're solving problems, but I feel like what you're really saying is actually I just like finding out what people are up to and being like, what's it called? Seeing if I can, I don't know, find like I don't know, murderers or liars or something like that. I'm trying to think, are you investigating mainly operations?
Just exposing the truth.
Exposing the truth. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like a profound thing to say and do. Like, what would you do if money didn't matter? I would expose the truth. like that's like, most people would want to do like some knitting or I don't know.
I think that'd be nice on the side, maybe just as a side hustle, just doing some knitting.
Yeah, just doing some knitting.
Or learn how to play an instrument. I'm a DJ, but I don't know how to play any instruments, and I've always kind of suffered a little bit because of that. I think I also really enjoy classical music, which I know is a bit nerdy, but especially like piano and violin. I think have really, really nice repertoires. So I would have loved to learn an instrument, but who knows? Maybe once I'm retired.
I'd recommend
piano.
Play piano, so I'd recommend learning that. Yeah,
cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, you should, because once you know how to play piano, you can kind of almost give or take, play or make, write music, because it's got all the chords and all that kind of stuff. So I'd recommend that, if anything. Well, that's really biased to me, obviously, because I play it, so of course I'm going to say that. But also I would recommend bass. I think bass is cool. I've always wanted to learn bass and I've never learned it.
Well, like bass guitar?
Yeah, don't you think they just look cool when they're like...
Yeah, the bass guitarist is always the coolest person in the band. They're just kind of mysterious and cool.
And they're just there with the sunglasses and they're like, I'm like, I'm gonna be that guy. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I'm trying to think, before I go, is there anything else I would want to know about Alex that I do not know? I mean, there were things that I'll just probably text you and be like, can I ask you things like, randomly. But I'm thinking, is there, here's a question that I would end on, because I always ask literally every one of my guests about this, and it teaches me a little bit about the person. If you could meet any person, dead or alive, and have dinner with them, who would it be, and why?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like I'm on Hinge. That's like a Hinge prompt.
That's like a Hinge question. Yeah. If you could meet any.
Well, I haven't thought about that in a while. Let me think.
Yeah. It could be anyone, by the way. Even if it's someone that I don't know or the general public don't know, as long as you can say why you would want to meet them, I think that would be answer.
I'm gonna pick a very random person because it's the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say Julia Louis-Dreyfus, the actress and comedian. I think most people know her from Seinfeld or Arrested Development.
Yeah. Okay. That is why her?
Because she's really funny, but also she's really smart and quite witty and always kind of on it in general. And I think she might have interesting stories to say and kind of funny anecdotes. So I think to have dinner with, she would be probably good company.
That's a very peculiar person that you've chosen, When
I know.
Yeah.
That was the first one that came to mind, because it's over dinner, you don't want to listen to something that's too heavy or too,
you want something that's entertaining.
I don't want to talk politics over dinner.
Yeah.
Maybe some scientific research would be okay, but it depends on the domain, and I unfortunately don't know that many names. I don't know, or I don't know, Andrew Huberman or Joe. knows a lot about a lot, and definitely has like, they've met a bunch of people and have a lot of fun anecdotes. I think that those could be good choices as well.
Yeah, those are. That's a very good. I've enjoyed. Yeah. That's a very I like that answer, because normally people always try and say like something profound, and they're always like, oh, I'd meet like Jesus or like Bob Marley or like something like that. But you're just very much like, yeah, that girl that like was in Seinfeld. Yeah, I want to meet her. And I'm like, yeah, cool. You know what I mean? That's calm. Nice. Okay. And is there anything that you would specifically ask her? Or you would just enjoy your time?
I think I would just enjoy my time, because I think she might be just kind of a, you just tell her to talk and she'll just like go for it, and you'll just get funny anecdotes. Who would you like to have dinner with?
Who would I like to have dinner with? I was just thinking about that as you were asking, and I think mine would also be, it would have to be a comedian, but I'd want it to be a comedian that I would actually enjoy the dinner with. So I would either say, I've forgotten his name now. It's Nick something, but it's the guy that used to write the Chappelle Show with Dave Chappelle. It's Nick. I've forgotten his name. White guy with glasses. So it'll either be him, or it'll be someone like Mindy Kaling, or who else would I like? Maybe Anna Kendrick from Pitch Perfect. And the reason why I would choose those people, like you said, is because I would always choose a comedian, because I think in order to be a comedian you have to be really smart, because you're basically like, being a comedian, you're basically taking the piss out of life, and to take the piss out of something you have to understand it better than most, and to be able to understand it in a way that would make it funnier for me to digest, or easier for me to digest, I think would make for a fun evening. Because I also don't like to, we've gotten really philosophical in this conversation. I don't actually like to necessarily get deep all the time. Sometimes I just want to have a laugh and be like, yeah, let's just have a good time. So yeah, I would choose either Anna Kendrick. I can't choose between them, but Anna Kendrick or Mindy Kaling. One of the two, probably.
Cool. Good choices. Solid. Yeah. And both women, so
yeah. I love
promo.
Yeah, I love spending time around. That's like that will go into like a whole nother conversation. But I say this to my fiance all the time, like, and it's not even in, or at least it's not in like a creepy way where it's like, oh yeah, I enjoy women's company. But I actually really do enjoy women's company, and I always have since I was a child, with like my aunties or my sisters or like my mum or whoever. And I naturally sort of gravitate towards women. But I'll tell you why. It's because every single time I've sat down and spoke to women, like sometimes with men, I think the ego kind of gets in the way, and there were some men who like, they either need to like one up you or be a little bit like, I don't know, like there's like or not, like I don't know, sometimes it's just sitting around and chilling with men can be really cool if it is a really cool like guy. Like I have one guy friend that I can literally take him anywhere and everything is fantastic and great, whereas everyone else I sort of have to bunch them together. Some guys can't meet other guys because they just don't they don't understand each other, whatnot. Whereas every time I find that I have female friends, I find it easier to conversate with them, mainly because I don't know. Women are, like, on some level, I think women find it easier to laugh at themselves than guys do. I think that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, some guys don't laugh at themselves, or they take themselves a bit too seriously because there's an insecurity there. Whereas women are not necessarily scared to do that. And so I enjoy that conversation more. So that's why I would choose female comedians, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah. Calm. Okay. Well, that was it. That's all we have time for, unfortunately. But yes, I have really enjoyed you being here. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I kind of knew it was going to go almost the way exactly how I thought it would go when we first met. And yeah, thank you for being a guest. I hope, if the universe permits it, somewhere in the future I could have you on as a guest again.
Yeah, likewise. I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. You're welcome. And you were saying you're Socials, obviously, it's a DJ is Marie X, so they can find you on Instagram, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, and all about. Cool.
Yeah, my Instagram is at Alex Maria Simi because I've blended in my personal and my DJ Instagram. But if you search for Maryx, MARYX, you will be able to find it.
Ah, wicked. Okay, guys, you heard it here first. This was Everyday People with Marie X and aka Alex and Sadiq Bello, and we were on Voices Radio. Take care. Bye bye.